Welcome to Steps Forward with Ricky, a weekly walking podcast designed to help you take steps forward in your life and your day. Episode 20. That's so crazy. We are 20 episodes in. Welcome to the podcast. If you are new here, I'm glad that you're here. You should be walking as you are listening to this podcast. And if you are a regular listener, I love you and I'm grateful for you. And I can't believe that this is episode 20. I've had such low energy today. I can't even speak. I've had really low energy today, and I honestly had low energy, I think, up until this very second of putting the headphones on and talking into the mic, which is a really good reminder that sometimes getting ourselves to the thing and the anticipation of doing the thing feels worse than actually doing the thing. So whatever it is in your life right now that you're anticipating to be exhausting, or maybe you feel tired right now, or you don't want to go do something because you're just like, I'm my low energy and I'm not motivated and I don't want to do it and blah, blah, blah. Sometimes just opening the door and putting one foot in front of the other and getting to the place and just doing it is what gives you energy. And it's a great reminder that we can change our state of mind and we can change that story of you feel this way and today might be a shitty day. But I really always believe that you can have a shitty morning and a low energy afternoon and have a really great night, right? Like our days aren't this or that. Our feelings aren't this or that. There's just like a million shades of gray. And so I had low energy this morning. I had low energy in this afternoon, but now I'm recording this podcast episode and I feel fine. So it's not a linear journey, the emotions that we feel throughout the day. And if you had a crappy morning, if you're on a walk right now, if you're just stressed or you feel anxious about something, know that you can have a good walk still. Know that you can still do the thing that you don't really feel like doing in this moment. And also know that maybe doing the thing might actually make you feel better. That is not the topic for today. But if you know me by now, you know that I like to talk off topic before I talk on topic. So let's get right to it. I wanted to talk about something that I've been thinking about a lot lately. And I actually didn't think about talking about this until 5 seconds ago. So I don't know if you can be able to relate to this, but we all have different stories and different patterns, different behaviors in our lives and different ways that we see ourselves. And so sometimes the problem with that and, with the stories that we tell ourselves, or the stories that people tell us, is that they stay with us and they linger, right? They're kind of like pain and trauma. They sort of stick with us until we deal with them, until we heal them, until we move forward from them. And I've just been thinking a lot about my life and a lot about the things in my life that I've done, the stories that I've told, the places I've been, the places that I want to go. And I realized something kind of amazing. I was talking to this girl, or I was listening to this girl speak, and this was like a couple weeks ago. And she said something to me, not actually to me, but she said something that I found really fascinating. She's like, people always say like you should be authentic and you should be real and you should be yourself and you should be who you are and you should share your experiences and all these different things. And I feel like I've done a really good job in my life of sharing my experiences, right? Like I share my pain, I invite people into my journey, and I am very raw and I'm very honest, especially on the podcast. And I never feel, I'm not like ashamed of my truth. And I believe that sharing our truth is what helps us work through it, move through it, and also can really set us free. Not everyone's going to agree with it and everyone's going to like it, but fuck it. You gotta be able to be who you are, right? But then she said something that I thought was so interesting. She said, it's good to be open. It's good to be honest. It's good to be truthful. It's good to share your pain. But sometimes we get so stuck in that part of our life, and we play this story of, I can only create content, or I can only share when I'm in pain, or I only have something to say when something has happened to me. And it's something that I've noticed about myself, really more so recently. And it's kind of like mind-blowing to me. And it's also really challenging because I'm like taken like kind of back by it. So if you're new here, my mom died when I was 13 years old. And I remember that was the first time in my life that I used writing and being self-expressive as a way to take a step forward or communicate or heal. And I remember thinking, like, after the rabbi read my speech at the funeral, like I remember looking out in the crowd in the audience, and like people were so moved. And they weren't just moved because I was a 13-year-old girl talking about her mom. They were moved by the way that I had communicated or expressed my love and my pain in such a profound way at such a young age. And the reason I'm sharing this with you is because I think that's really where I picked up the belief that I could move people through communication, whether that was talking or being on a stage or writing or creating, and that people, when I spoke and when I shared my pain, people responded to it. It was sort of like, that was sort of people what they responded to. Like if Ricky was going through a rough time, I was relatable. If I had something in my life that was heavy, if I shared it, then people could relate to me and they would respond to me and they would support me. And in a lot of ways, that's sort of like a belief that I kept with me of like, life is hard. My life is hard. I remember that people respond well to when I share the hard things about my life. They feel connected to me. I feel connected to them because they're giving me that support. And I think something that's happened, because I've been through so much, maybe you've been through so much, that it's not that these are false stories of like people do respond to those things about me, but I think there's a part of me that has stayed in that story of like, I have to be sad, or I have to be going through something hard, or I have to be going through a challenge in my life for people to connect to me. And it's such a profound thing that I've realized, because sometimes I feel like, I don't know, I'm like, well, I don't know if I have a lot to say today on social media. And then sometimes my brain will be like, well, why don't you share something hard that you've gone through? And like lately now I'm catching myself being like, but I don't want to share anything hard right now. Like I actually feel fine. And then sometimes you're like, well, this is, by the way, not you, like this is me and my brain having a conversation. But like, I will feel kind of like I have nothing to say. And it's so interesting to me because of course I'm always going to share the authentic hardships I go through, but I think that I've only learned to communicate through pain. Like I have always taken my pain and turned it into something, whether that's a creative video or a post or a blog or a podcast or a speech on a stage. And it seems like, or it feels like, or it felt like that the only way I could be self-expressive was if I was self-expressive about my challenges. And that's the only way that I could be authentic, even though I have so many great things that, like, I'm a very light person and I have so many things I've discovered about myself and who I am. And I have so many powerful things about me, but some reason it's so much easier for me to say these things. It's like, I don't know if you can relate to this, but it's sort of like, if you pick between living big and living small, you're just sort of more comfortable in like the small space. Because the truth is like, if you keep only talking about the hard things of your life, you kind of stay stuck in that pattern of like, okay, if I only have something to say when my life is hard, then I got to make sure my life continues to be hard. And it's kind of self-destructive. And I think because I've gone through so many things in my life, and especially in the last year, especially in the last few months, like with pot and breaking up and therapy and all this different stuff, because like my life has legitimately been hard. I've had a lot to say. But what about when life isn't hard? You know what I mean? Like, what about when you're doing good? Is that not worthy of talking about? It's almost like something that I'm working through right now is like that I'm scared to like not have these things to share. Because I know that I always will. I mean, we're always going through things in our life. But I think it's so interesting that the first time I got attention for being self-expressive about the things that I'm experiencing, which are all real, was when I was 13 years old, was when my mom died. And then I carried that belief that life has to be hard, that I have to be going through something hard for me to be expressive. I think it's always a little easier to like take a pain and turn it into purpose. But I think there's something powerful about just being powerful and sharing that. And it's okay if I'm not going through something hard that doesn't make me less creative or less able to help people, right? So I don't know. I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting for me and for you. It's like, what stories have you picked up along the way that have made you believe certain things about yourself? And like, can you change them? Can you say, I can share this and I can share that. And they're both authentic and they're both real. And it's just something that I've been thinking about lately, because as I take steps forward, as I take steps towards my truth and my happiness and my power and my voice, I know that even though I'll always experience challenging things in my life, I'm very determined to live a life with more ease and peace and calmness. And I think I had this fundamental belief that I have to pick. Like, I can't be expressive and people be connected to me and any of that stuff if I'm not sharing something hard that they can connect to. And that made me sad, because I'm a really light person. Like, I'm have a lot of energy and I love to fuck around. And even though I've been through a lot of dark things, I don't associate myself with a dark person. Like, I'm pretty light. And I think sometimes we stay in these stories of this is just who you are. Life is hard. You express yourself better when life is hard. That might be true, but that shouldn't take away from expressing myself when life is good. It's almost like I'm scared if I express myself when life is good, then something hard is going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, we're so scared to step into these powers of ours, and we think that in order for us to be authentic, we just have to be sad almost. And I'm really working through that. I'm like catching myself now, being like, okay, maybe you don't feel as creative right now. Is that because you have nothing to say? Or is that because you think you should only talk about something hard? And when I say that, like, when I say it that way, I'm like, I need to stop saying like immediately. I've said it so many times this episode. Sorry. If you're new here, I don't usually say that. But I do really think that we have to become self-aware of the decisions that we make and why we make them. Because if I believe that I'm only worthy of being creative and expressing myself and connecting to people and helping people by sharing all and only the hard things that I go through, then I'm going to keep making my life hard to keep staying connected to people. That's fucking stupid. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Truly. Because who does that affect? What are some likes and comments and shares and saves and that's all really great and I'm so grateful, but what's a little dopamine hit of that versus just feeling good? So that's something that I'm working on, is this my story? Is this my old story? Do I really want to share that story? Do I have to share everything in my life to be authentic? I am a sharer. We know that. I'm a truthful, honest person. But I think there's also other ways to be honest. You can be honest about the good things, the things that maybe are a little more out there, the things that I believe in. I think we play it safe in our lives by sticking to what we know. But we know so much more. We are so much more. We're such dynamic people. And because I'm healing, because I'm becoming braver, because I feel better about myself, even on the hard days, I have to change the story that I'm only worthy when I have something hard to share. Because that's not true. Because that's not who I am. That's not who you are. Please share the things in your life, but don't forget to share the good things either. So that's really it today. It's really just about changing that story and remembering, where did you pick up that belief about yourself? Whatever that belief is for you, it could be a totally different situation than this. It just is the idea of, are you doing something on autopilot, or are you doing something to stay safe? And if you are, can you step outside of the comfort zone a little bit? Can you share something that might be a little controversial? Can you handle change within? Can you handle what people might say if you do it a little differently? Because I'm always going to be who I am and always going to be honest, and you're always going to be who you are. But who we are is not this one thing. We're so many different things. And I don't want to just be or share the sad things in my life. Like, I want people to know that you literally can take a step forward. And you can have a bad day and a good day all in one day. And you can share all of that. Or you don't have to share any of it. So that's just where I'm at. And I think that's a really good place to be, because that's a place of self-awareness. And it's a place where I'm saying, I don't think that I have to be sad. I don't believe my life has to be hard for it to be inspirational. I don't think I have to be going through something to be able to help people. I think I could be a combination of all of it. And I don't think I know. So just a reminder that you can change the story, but you can't change the story unless you're aware of the story that you're trying to change. And so I've recognized that I picked up a belief when I was 13 years old, when I learned that I could communicate and I could move people with my words, with my sad words, with the way that I expressed myself. I picked up the belief that that was the only way I could connect to people, was through pain. And now that I'm not in as much pain, I don't want to just connect with people through that. I want to connect with people through creativity and through ideas and through philosophy and through life, all of life, good and bad, because that is what life is. Life is good and bad. And that's a really good place to be, because that's a place of growth. It doesn't mean that's 100% where I am right now, but I'm more in that space of life can be easy and happy. Even when it's hard, I can be happy. And when you're used to living in the I'm always sad or I'm always going through something, then that's the story you know. But there's this whole other story that we can create. So please, just because you are where you're at now doesn't mean that you have to stay there. And just because who you are is who you are now doesn't mean that's who you have to be. And you don't have to give up all parts of you now to be someone else. You can just invite new parts in, right? Like open the door, edit the chapter a little bit. And remember that whoever it is that you're trying to be, and wherever it is that you're trying to go, like you can go there one step forward at a time. Hope you had a good walk, got your steps in, drink your water, and I will see you on Monday.